going to continue on page 94a in Parashat Mishpatim. We are learning about past lives, future lives, reincarnations, and so forth. We're just going to read now a short commentary given by the Ramak, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, and then we're going to continue where we left off. And the reason why he's giving this commentary is because yesterday we spoke about the type of soul that will be pulled down into this world depending on the time that the parents conceive the child. If the parents conceive the child during the week, then it will pull a soul from Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. If the child was conceived on Shabbat, on Friday night, then it will pull a soul from the world of Atzilut. If you remember yesterday we said that if it was a soul came, for example, from the world of Yetzirah, and then it made a sin, then when it comes to get reincarnated, it will have 6 opportunities to do the rectification, 6 reincarnations, 6 rounds. But if it will come from the world of Atzilut, then it wouldn't need to go through hardship to get rectification. Rather, only by Torah and mitzvot it will reach to its tikkun, and it's going to have a... Excuse me?
You would rather by what?
By following the mitzvot and learning Torah, versus the other type of soul will have to go through hardship. We specifically said it's going to have to go for much more than hardship. If you remember, we said it has to go through shiabud, is so to say slavery, a physical, a spiritual slavery, and hard work, hardship, diseases, poverty, tiltul. Tiltul is like being thrown from one side to the other, madness, tiruf, and many other things, what the person will have to go through to reach to a rectification.
So I would have known that 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Born when?
Excuse me?
Born when?
No, yesterday we were talking about the 2 options that if the soul was brought down into the world while the parents were conceiving the child during the week, then it will pull a soul from the world of Bria, Yetzirah, Asiyah. And then that person, if that person will sin, will be much harder to do a rectification. And yesterday we mentioned that that type of soul will need to, initially get 6 options, 6 rounds to come in a reincarnation. Versus a soul that came from the world of Atzilut, it won't have to go through these sufferings. Kind of will have like a VIP pass, like you're flying first class, you get checked in with
Born to a higher family that's easier to start.
You get upgraded.
Yeah, you get upgraded.
You're born to a good family, or
Correspondence, like which day what was created, right? So
not created, rather conceived.
yeah, okay.
But that 6 life thing, that sounds a little like it's hard to get that 6 life.
Wait, this is just one option. After that, he will give much more options. But nevertheless, he tells you in the first shot, you get 6 shots. The first time, you get 6 rounds. You mess those 6 rounds, we don't know what's going to happen next.
Okay.
But nevertheless,
we're in our 6th round. Is that what's happening?
Excuse me?
We're in the 6th round, I guess.
Nobody knows which round you are. You can be in the 1,000th round. Nobody knows, but nevertheless, let's try to go through it without comments and questions, because if not, we're going to be able to only read through words and then get anywhere. But nevertheless, I'm just repeating a little bit what we did yesterday. So when you miss a class, then you don't understand anything. That's the problem. and then comes all the questions and the things that don't make sense. I'm just trying to a little bit say what we said yesterday, so things will be making more sense. But nevertheless, the reason why I'm saying that, because now the Ramak gives a commentary, and in order to understand why he's giving this commentary, then we need to understand what we spoke yesterday. Because he says kacha, Soda Inyan, the secret behind what he's about to explain now, hu ki hazivug shenesa b'yemei hachol, when the husband and wife are together, they have marital relations during the week, not during Shabbat, the result will be mashpia nefesh me'ofen it will affect the soul in a certain way. How? First of all, he says, as we know, the soul has many different levels. The lowest level of the soul is called nefesh, then above it comes ruach, then above it comes neshama, then above it chaya and yechidah. He says, when the parents are conceiving the child during the week, it will affect the nefesh from the level of asiyah. Veruach misitra de'eved, the ruach will come from the side of what we called the definition of eved, of a slave. We explained that yesterday. Meaning that will come from the world of Yetzirah. V'neshama, it will affect the neshama from the world of Bria. So, this is something that the Arizal actually explains in Shar Gligulim, in the Gates of Reincarnation, how every part of the soul will come from a different world. Very general to explain what he says. The lowest part, nefesh, will come from Asiyah, ruach from Yetzirah, neshama from Bria. Then it will go a higher level. Chaya will come from the world of Atzilut, and Yechidah comes from the world that's called Ak. That's what the Arizal explains. Here the commentary that he's saying is that when the parents are conceiving the child in the middle of the week, then the nefesh of that child, the child that will come to the world, the nefesh will come from the world of Asiyah, ruach from Yetzirah, and neshama from Bria. Since this soul was pulled down to the world on a weekday, on the weekday we do labors, melacha. On Shabbat we are not allowed to work. But during the week we're allowed to work. Work means any type of labor. I'm talking about, of course, biblical labors, not going to working in my job. Talking about what I'm allowed to do during the week and I'm not allowed to do during Shabbat. Because on Shabbat there's certain labors that I'm not allowed to do. So during the week I'm allowed to do these labors. Therefore it's affecting the soul. לכן כשמתגלגלת ובאה לעולם הזה בפעם אחרת, יש בה שיעבוד מלאכה. Therefore, since it was conceived during the week when I'm allowed to do labor, and again, melacha, labor is what I'm allowed to do during the week, what I'm not allowed to do on Shabbat. You have to understand the term that he's using. Then next time when this soul is going to come back in a reincarnation, back into this world, it's going to be right away have the so to say, it will both be under the slavery of labor. Meaning that the tikkun will have to come with hard work. It's not going to have to come, the tikkun, the rectification will not come easy. Why? על ידי שהיא עוזרת את האדם בדרישת הדברים הגשמיים, since the soul was conceived during the week, and during the week has a more of a closeness to physical desires, and not spiritual, like on Shabbat, ועושה מלאכות החול. During the week, I'm doing mundane things, or, in Hebrew we call it chol. And when we do Avdalah, we say, I'm avdil ben kodesh lechol. Shabbat is kodesh, is holy, and during the week is chol, mundane.
Okay.
We're talking about here a mother and a father, a husband and wife. Yeah, they can't hold their urge, and they just jump on each other. And happens to be that a child comes from that. Now, the child's totally kosher, everything's fine. The woman is clean, she's pure, but just it didn't come with kedusha.
Okay.
So that's what we're talking about. Which, listen, I'm not blaming anybody. If the husband and the wife have passionate feelings to each other, and they just having marital relations, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
If it's done in a very holy matter, then needless to say, the neshama will be pulled in a holy matter. If it's done because they just can't control their urges, which I'm not blaming anybody, right. It's totally natural and totally fine, then they will bring a soul from this level of the worlds. Now, that's why, when a husband and wife having relations, they have to think, wait a minute, I'm now going to stamp, so to say, a soul with my issues. Mm-hmm. If I brought the child down with lust, then I'm dressing that child with that energy, right. With that garment.
Right.
And needless to say, now we're learning here that child will grow up, do sins, then we'll have to come back in a reincarnation. And now that child, because it was conceived during the week and is dressed with a mundane garments, then even the tikkun is going to be in a much harder way. So I have to take responsibility here and understand. If you remember, a few months ago we learned in the Zohar about also about what happens while the parents are conceiving during the week. How Lamed Yud Lamed Yud Taf is standing there waiting for a job to come out and so forth. So needless to say, even if the relations are done in a very kosher way between a husband and a wife, kosher means that she's pure and they're doing it the right way, etc. But still, they have to take into consideration, wait a minute, 5 minutes of fun and 40 years for a person to suffer.
Right.
So, suffer means because if I'm doing the act not in such a holy way, I'm dressing the soul with garments that are not so clean. And then the child, I mean, sometimes it's very easy. I mean, you can make 100%, it's not 100%, but you can look at a child, see how the child behaves, you can kind of understand how the parents conceive the child.
Right.
That's usually the case. And you see sometimes a child, the face of an angel, child is relaxed, the child is not so hyper and not aggressive and so forth. You say, okay, I can more or less imagine what's going on in the bedroom that night.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you see a child wild and aggressive and you say, okay, I can imagine what's going on there. So, and again, it's not a rule because sometimes there's no 100% here. But usually you can kind of look at the child, how the child is behaving, and then know how he was conceived. Needless to say that when, I was born not in a very pure way. I mean, my mother wasn't in the mikveh before I was conceived, and I don't know what's going on there. I can tell you that my process of tshuva was a very hard one. But I can guarantee to you that if happens to be that the child will go off the path, let's say, and then will have to come back and do tshuva, and he was conceived in a very holy way, his tshuva is not going to be so hard. Because we literally are dressing a husband and a wife, and we're together, they're dressing the soul with garments, either they're holy garments or not holy garments. Here is explaining that if the child was conceived during the week, forget about right now how the act was done. Of course, we're referring to that the act was done in a holy manner. But it was done during the week. And just for the sake of the example, because you asked that question, not in a way of mamash of holiness. Now the child is being dressed with these garments that we call them bigdei chol, garments like mundane garments. When that person will have to come back and get reincarnated, then he's going to have a little bit more of a harder time. And shiabud is the the translation for shiabud is slavery. But we're just talking now for the last 2 weeks about Pesach, how we are all slaves. Then the tikkun will have to come in that form, that I'm, so to say, slave to the physical world. And I have desires for the world. I have very strong weaknesses to things in the world, whether it's food, whether it's procreating, whatever it is. I mean, the two major things that people have an issue in this world is anything that has to do with marital relations and food. These are the major two things that people have an issue with. And it's very hard for them to control. Believe it or not, most people have a very strong weakness for food. And you just put a bowl of cookies on the table, everybody's already jumping on it. Go next to the guy here with the shawarma, you just pass next to it, you're smelling it, you're like, most people have a very strong weakness. I don't know if grammatically you can say a strong weakness. But nevertheless, it's marital relations and food. These are the two departments that people have issues with.
It's an oxymoron.
Yeah. But nevertheless, going back to what he was saying, we're talking here about the soul that was conceived, the person was conceived during the week. The soul is being pulled down from the world of Bria, Yetzirah, or Asiyah. And when it comes down again in a reincarnation, it will have to go through hardship to do its rectification. And not only hardship, chalaim is sicknesses. Sometimes you don't understand, why am I so sick? I'm eating healthy, I'm taking care of my body, I'm still sick. Oh, that can be from a previous life. You know, Baruch Hashem, I can tell you that I eat pretty healthy. I mean, I'm not Mr. Fanatic here, but we eat pretty healthy, and we don't have certain things in our home. We have no microwave and all that junk, and I would consider myself way above the normal average in being healthy.
Right.
And I do get sick, and sometimes I don't understand, why am I getting sick? If you remember, a few weeks ago, my family got some virus. I remember I was sick. It was a couple days here. I didn't even show up. So sometimes you can say, oh, it's some virus going on in the city. The virus is just an excuse. But nevertheless, sometimes when I do get very sick, a few years ago, I got very sick. I got mono. I don't even know how I got such a thing. And I was maybe 8 weeks completely out of it. I was about 4 weeks in bed. I couldn't even move. So sometimes these sicknesses, they don't come because of there's a virus or that it's winter or you get a cold. It's something that from a previous life, and it came in order. I mean, the rectification, the tikkun comes in order. And then there's a one spot on the neshama that needs to be removed. And spiritually, that blemish has to be removed with a sickness. And then you're 2 weeks in bed and you can't move and you don't know where it's coming from. It's coming from a sin that you did in the past. Now another thing what the soul will have to go through is dalut. Dalut is poverty. Very, very few people don't experience that. Most people, they go through a period in their life, either they're very comfortable, and some period in their life, they're so poor, they don't even know how to get out of it. They're like, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything wrong. That could have been that you're paying a bill from 1,000 years ago. Now, another part that the person will have to go through is called tiltul. Tiltul this is tiltul, when you're going from side to side. Tiltul can be the fact that you every 2 months have to move a house. And that's another thing that a lot of people experience that. I had that a few years ago. Yep. In about 9 months, we moved maybe 13 times with kids and suitcases and boxes and this is tiltul, that you're not settled. Yeah. We were living out of suitcases and boxes. When we came here to Israel, was Bemet, after we went through Tiltulim, we took a video. My kids had their toys in boxes.
Tiltulim, that's maybe a diaper here.
No, yeah, that's titulim. Tiltul is when you being pushed from side to side. So anyways, when we did Aliyah, we made a video how my kids are smashing their boxes because their toys were in boxes for like a year and a half. Anyways, that's another type of a tikkun. Another one is tiruf. Tiruf is madness, when a person loses it. It can be a nervous breakdown. Can be a person, just sometimes you see a person that loses it, anger.
Can't handle it.
Yeah, and sometimes you see, and it happens to all of us, and you can be a normal individual with good midot, but somebody will press your button and it's after a month or two of a lot of pressure and you snap. And literally, this is called tiruf, madness, and you don't, again, where is it coming from? I'm a good, calm individual, and suddenly the person flips out. Another thing is, v'inelevet v'nifgemet. Another part that this is all different parts of what a person will have to go to as a tikkun, as a rectification in a gilgul. One of them is ne'elevet, that the person gets very hurt. And you don't understand, why am I getting hurt? I'm getting hurt from this person, he said something, a wrong word, and you get severely hurt, and you blame it on the situation. But it just shows that the soul is vulnerable. If you get very hurt from somebody's actions, where you really experience it. I mean, we all went through it at some point or another. You get dumped.
Right.
You date somebody and they dump you, and you're broken-hearted for half a year, and you're running after the person, please take me back, and what are you? You're pathetic. Yeah. And we all have that at least once in our life, if not 2 or 3, that you get dumped. I remember when I was I think it was 19 or 20. I was in the army. There was one girl. She dumped me. Oh, I was going after her please, I'll do whatever you want. And my friends would look at me what are you, a rag? In Hebrew we say smartut. It's a girl. Move on, get another one. So, but you don't have control over it, and you're literally in Hebrew we say shafut. I don't know how you say it.
I won't say it here.
Yeah, sucker. What? A what? Yeah, something like that. So, anyways. So this shows weakness in the neshama, and it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means this is part of a tikkun that you're going to have to go through because it's yisurim. This is hardship. When you're broken-hearted, this is hardship.
So the unfortunate thing is the soul that's conceived has to pay for its sins of the parent.
But it's
I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say.
Rabbi is also talking about it. If you know when you were conceived, you know what type of tikkun you could do. Is that what you're also saying? There's a type of...
No, just to correct, you can, but I wouldn't say the parents sin. The soul has to come in a gilgul for its own sins. But since it was conceived on a regular day, it's adding another level of hardness.
Yeah, just the instruments.
But if you didn't do any sins, you're not paying for somebody else's sins. Let's say the child was conceived in a kosher way, but in the middle of the week, hypothetically, that person didn't sin at all, and he doesn't have to come to a reincarnation, no problem, go to Gan Eden. But nevertheless, here he's just explaining different things that we have to go through, and because it makes you understand. Oh, I understand now why sometimes I get sick. Sometimes like you pull the thing here. I mean, you can blame it on the universe and saying, okay, I made a wrong move. Okay, but that could be now that look, you have to. Our life is a timeline, and at some certain point on the timeline, it's a rectification. And whoever designed the timeline, whether it's Hashem or one of his ministers, said, okay, at the age of 30, this is going to happen to you. At the age of 31, this will happen to you. At the age of 32, this is going to happen to you. Everything is laid out. And a lot of what we go through, it's a tikkun, it's a rectification. Here you lose your money, here you lose your house, here you get dumped, here you get divorced, here you get sick. So everything is predestined. So your choice here is how you digest the tikkun. And if you accept everything with love, then it kind of wears off and it disappears at some point. Anyways, let's continue a little bit just to continue the flow. So we said another thing is that the soul gets hurt. Another thing is that the soul will get v'nifgemet al yedei dvarim gashmiim. That the soul will get damaged, so to say. I wouldn't say damage, rather like a dent.
Yeah.
When
you can't get really damaged.
No, the soul doesn't get damaged. That's why I said better say a dent.
Okay.
You can have a beautiful car, $100,000 car, and somebody will bump into you, and ooh, that hurts. After you took that $80,000 Mercedes out of the dealer, and somebody bumped into you. Now nothing happened to you. Excuse me?
No, but still, the point is making.
Whatever. The point is that the soul will get a dent. This doesn't hurt the soul itself, rather the exterior part, but nevertheless the soul will get dented. In Hebrew it says nifgemet, is a pgam, a blemish, by physical things, umaasim mechoarim, and with disgusting acts. לכן אפשר שנשמה זאת תתגלגל כמה פעמים עד שתתוקן. Therefore, the soul will have to come back a few times. That let's say 1,000 years ago, it doesn't matter, I'm throwing 1,000 years. A person did some sins, comes to the heavenly court, they find him guilty. It doesn't mean that with one life he can fix it. Sometimes it will take 5 lives to fix one life, if they're lucky. So it says here, לכן אפשר, therefore, נשמה תתגלגל כמה פעמים, the soul will come a few times, till it will get a rectification, עד שתתוקן. אמנם הזיווג הנעשה בשבת, משפיע נפש דאצילות, בת מלך מלכות. But on the other hand, if the child is being conceived on Shabbat, the nefesh is coming from the world of Atzilut.
What happens to the soul?
והאדם שזכה לנפש, והאדם שזכה לנפש דאצילות. Listen, you got to focus. This is heavy things. I mean, I know there's a lot of questions, but sometimes, as if we go through the whole thing, the questions get answered. והאדם שזכה לנפש דאצילות, when a person receives a nefesh from the world of Atzilut, אפילו אם מתגלגל, אין בו שעבוד עוון ולא מלאכה. Even if that person will have to come back in a reincarnation, he doesn't get, so to say, subject to hard labor or hard work in the tikkun, and he doesn't get subject to be a slave to a sin. Because if I come in, when I come here to get reincarnated in order to fix my problems, I'm already subject to sin, which means that I will fall into a family that from the day one I'm going to be desecrating Shabbat. I'm going to be eating not kosher food. I'm going to be in a mixed school. So why? Because I'm already coming with a minus, with a deficiency. But here he's saying, if you were born if you were conceived on a Shabbat, and the nefesh is coming from the world of Atzilut, then even if I come back to get reincarnated, I will fall into like a house of a very pure house. Mother and father are already observant. They're keeping Shabbat, like our kids. Yeah. We were born into junk, and we had to go through hell to get to where we are. Our kids are already born into a kosher home. From day one they're eating kosher. From day one they're observing Shabbat. At school they're already separated. From day one they're already taught not to steal, not to kill, not to say lashon hara. I mean, I got a good education, but not a Torah education. So nevertheless, this is the difference, that the person will have to come back in a reincarnation, but he's not going to be subject to sin right away.
Mazel shows that.
Yeah?
Mazel shows that.
100%.
You can see it.
And not only that, lo lemelacha. Then my tikkun is not going to be so hard. I'll have to go through my tikkun, but not going to be extreme. Ela nishlemet al yedei maaseh adam b'torah v'mitzvot. How would I reach to my rectification? By performing mitzvot and learning Torah. So that child will go right away to yeshiva. So look at my kids from age of 3. They're learning Torah. So they're getting their tikkun in an easy way out, so to say. ואינה עומדת בו בשעבודו או בפנותו אחר המגונה. And the soul doesn't have to really be subject to hardship and a hard time, and is not going to be right away going into doing acts that are not so nice. You know, when you're born into a religious family, an observant family, there's a good chance that you're going to be like a kind of like a good kid. But when you're born into a family that is not such a great family, I mean, you from the age, a small age, you're already cursing, false language, seeing also things that are disgusting. I mean, you look sometimes at kids, how they talk, and they know, I mean, I know it's a kind of touchy subject. Go now to an observant child, an 11-year-old observant child, ask them where kids come from, they don't know. I don't know. Go to a 8-year-old secular child, oh, they'll tell you everything. Oh, I know where it's coming from, I know how it looks and everything. So this is called maaseh meguneh. It's not appropriate for a child to be exposed to such things. You know, and when I was 11, I was already smoking cigarettes with my grandfather. He was giving me beers and cigarettes. When I was like 12, he was already giving me joints. So that's my grandfather. So, I mean, this is not an appropriate thing for a child. And that's exactly what it's saying. The child already falls into a place that is not so pure. אלא מובטח הוא שלא יחטא לפי שאין חטא בא על ידו. What? When a child, when the person is being conceived on Shabbat, then he's guaranteed that he's not going to come into a world of sin. I mean, this is a big bonus. ואם יבואו לחטוא, תסתלק הנשמה ותברח ממנו שלא תתלכלך בעוון. And this type of individual that was born was conceived on a Shabbat is going to be placed in a safe place, so to say, that is not going to be subject to sin. More than that, if the person will come to sin, look what he's saying here. Tistalek neshama, the soul will jump out of the body, so the soul will not get dirty. That's, just imagine. V'tivrach mimeno, the soul will move away. Why? Shelo titlachlech ba'avon, that the soul itself, the neshama, will not get dirty by the sin. V'alav ne'emar yetze lachofshi chinam. And that's what it says in the verse. If you remember, we talked about an Eved Ivri, a Jewish slave that 6 years he has to work, and on the 7th he goes free. This is referring to that child that he goes out free on the 7th. Meaning, why 7th? Was conceived on the 7th day, coming from the Sphira, the 7th Sphira. So he goes out, so to say, free, basically saying, in other words, that an individual that was conceived on a Shabbat, when it comes back into a reincarnation, they have kind of like an easy life. Kind of. Meaning they're not born into a disgusting place, they're not subject to a lot of impurity. And you can kind of realize from us, most likely in the previous life, we were conceived on a weekday, just because of the trouble we had to go through to where we are. Now here he's saying it in a very negative way. I actually see it in a very positive way. Because, you know, our tshuva, where we came from, is like 1,000 times better than somebody else's tshuva. So what we do, me putting tefillin on, is like 1,000,000 times more powerful than a person that was born into a religious family. Because the power. And not only that, you know what it is for us to do tshuva, where we came from? So the volume, it's not the quality, it's not the quantity, it's the quality. So because each and every one of us, the intensity to do one act, it's like carrying 1,000 pounds on me. And versus a person that was born into an observant family, okay, there's no resistance here. Forget about the habit. There's no resistance here. So I am actually happy that where I was born, where I was placed, because my tshuva, not that I'm showing off, I'm saying us, because we're all in the same place. We all come from the same place. I'm going to need to say all sorts of words, but the transformation is from here to here. So even if I did 10 steps, it's like 10,000 steps for somebody else. Because the intensity, the resistance here, and the Yetzer Hara, the fight to do one thing. So I'm actually happy that I, was thrown where I was thrown.
So on the flip side, the person born in a religious family, when they sin, their judgment's harsher.
Yeah, 100%. A person that was born into a religious family, and then they go off the path, they're in big trouble, because they really know everything. It's 10 times worse for them, because they already know it's Shabbat. They already know what it means not to put tefillin on. That's why when they need to do tshuva, you look at the guys and the girls that go off the derech, off the path, when they have to do tshuva, they go through hell. Literally through hell. I see it. I see so many thousands of balei tshuva that are coming from a frum, from an observant family. Their tshuva is very, very hard. There's one, I can tell you 1,000, but the specific about one that she came from a very, very, very strict group, very extreme. Everything they do is very extreme. There's a Hasidic group called Satmar. Very, it's like you can move. There's no leeway here for nothing. Very strict in everything. And I can understand why their youth are going completely nuts. I have another guy that he was also coming from this Hasidut Satmar, and he's totally went against the Torah. And then in our talks, he told me once, I never had a bike. It was a sin for me to play football. I had to sneak with my friends and to hide, and if we would get caught playing football, we would be punished. So of course, why would an individual like this stay on the path of the Torah when he's being choked? But nevertheless, these young individuals, I see their struggle to come back. Because usually when they go off, they go to the worst pits in the world. And then to come back, wow, what they have to go through. But nevertheless, I always see that as an advantage. We have to count our blessings. I'm happy I wasn't born into some Hasidic family in Borough Park. I'm happy I was born into where I was born, because it's almost like being a self-made millionaire and a millionaire that got inherited all the money. You can say, I did it myself. I was able to do that. Okay, let's continue. We were talking about the nefesh that comes from the world of Atzilut. Then the rectification, the tikkun is not so harsh. Pirush she'eno mitgalgel ela pa'am achat. Now this is another bonus round. For the nefesh that comes from the world of Atzilut, will only get reincarnated once. And that's it. It doesn't have to come up so many times. And of course, if it in that once, it reached the rectification. If it messed it up, then right again into the wheel. Yeah. V'gamazu bli shi'abud v'torach. But assuming that person is coming from the nefesh that comes from the world of Atzilut, gets reincarnated once, assuming it did what it's supposed to do, that's it, it's done, and also that tikkun is not going to be such a harsh time. Ve'im lo tiken, but what if that person didn't reach the rectification in that time, b'pa'am hazot, lo yitgalgel shenit. If that person didn't reach to a rectification at that time, he won't come back in a reincarnation, rather will go to Genom. And as if you remember, we said Genom is a much better punishment than getting reincarnated. So basically, that specific individual, nefesh is coming from the world of Atzilut, will come one time to get reincarnated. If they able to make it, good. If not, they don't get reincarnated again, and then they have to just go to Genom. And as we mentioned, much better place to go to Genom than to come there. This world is worse than Genom. Anyways. Okay, so this is just a little commentary by the Ramak. We're flipping a page to page 94b, Tzadik Daled Bet, Amud Bet. And now he continues. Ad hachiha sava nachat legabe. As Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is talking what he was talking yesterday, בתוך כך ירדה על רבי שמעון נשמת איש זקן. As he's talking, remember yesterday we talked that Rabbi Shimon gathered his חבר'ה, tells them, let me give you some secrets here. As he's doing that, a soul comes down to Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was seeing souls everywhere. We're talking with souls like the Ari HaKadosh. It's not like us. We just talk to each other. But the Ari HaKadosh, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, would see souls everywhere, would talk to them, how can I help you? So the soul comes down to Rabbi Shimon, Nishmat Ish Zaken Migan Eden, an old soul that came from Gan Eden that was sent to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Why? Laset velatet imo berazei Torah, to teach him some secrets from of the Torah. This just soul comes down from Gan Eden. Amarle, this soul tells Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Ihachi, if so, Rabbi, my Rabbi, you said that if a soul from the world of Atzilut comes down and it gets reincarnated, you just said, the old soul is telling Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, you said if this is the case, then the soul will not be subject to slavery and hard work in the rectification. Ma tosefet lenishmat de'ihi mina. What is an advantage, so to say, for this soul that comes from the world of Atzilut, more than a soul that comes from the world of Bria, Tzira, or Asiyah? Hare we know, hakatuv v'shvet kulam elea. The script says that all the souls are equal. So what's you saying the difference between the soul that comes from the world of Atzilut and the soul that comes from the world of Bria, Tzira, and Asiyah? Deit marba, as it says about it, lo ta'aseh chol melacha, ata uvincha uvitecha. It says in the script, you should not do any labor, not you, not your son, and not your daughter. If you remember, when do we say this verse? In Kiddush, on Yom Shabbat. Lo ta'aseh kol melacha, you should not do any labor, not you, not your son, and not your daughter. Why is the Torah telling you, just say you and your entire family? Why you, your daughter, your son, your animal, your behemah, if you go in the script, it's a whole description.
Even the ger.
The ger, yeah. So, the Zohar says, you, your daughter, and your son are a hint on the nefesh, ruach, neshama, v'atzilot. It's hinting about three madrigot, three levels in your soul that are called nefesh, ruach, neshama, specifically from the world of atzilot. Ata in the script, hainu means neshama mi bina, talking about the neshama that comes from the sphira that is called bina. Bincha, your son, this is referring to ruach, coming from tiferet. Uvitcha, this is nefesh that's coming from malchut. This is three levels that are coming from the world of Atzilut, Bina of Atzilut, Tiferet of Atzilut, and Malchut of Atzilut. And then it says, Ve'avdecha, and your servant, your Eved, your slave or your worker, your servant. And then it continues, Ve'amatcha, and your maid servant, Ve'emtecha, and your animal. No, behemtecha, behema is a behema, the animal, your animal. What are there? Why do we have another three definitions? This is a hint of nefesh, ruach, neshama coming from the world of Bria, Tzira, and Asiyah. Avdecha is the ruach that comes from the side of a slave. If you remember, we said that all the neshamot that are considered slaves are subject to be ruled by the angel that is called Metatron. And they're all coming from the world of Yetzirah. Amatcha, the maidservant, is a neshama coming from the sphere of Bria, from the world of Bria. Here the Ramak gives a little commentary and says, pasuk medaber im anashim, since the verse is talking about humans, lachen magdim eved le'ama. So it first says slave and then a maidservant. Kmo shemagdim ben lebat, as it says first a boy and then a girl. Uvehemtecha, this is just a commentary. Uvehemtecha, and your animal, this is nefesh de'asiyah. This is referring to the lowest part of the soul, which is nefesh, coming from the world of asiyah. V'al kulam ne'mar lo ta'aseh kol melacha. And all of them, what does it says? You cannot do any labor. What is this labor it's talking about? היינו שאפילו שיתגלגלו, even though they will come into a reincarnation, לא ישתעבדו במלאכה. They're not going to be subject for the harsh work of the rectification. הרי אנו רואים שגם הנשמות דבייה הנמשכות מזיווג ימות חול, שוות לנשמות דאצילות, הנמשכות מזיווג ליל שבת. This is now the question that the soul from Gan Eden is questioning Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I see from this pasuk, I mean the soul that came down from Gan Eden, it just says Nishmat Ish. Ish. We never know who's this neshama that comes and challenges Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Might be a very big neshama, because it's coming and saying to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, I don't know why you're telling there's a difference. I don't see any difference here. According to the verse that we just explained, it seems like the souls that are coming from the world of Atzilut and the souls that are coming from the world of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, exactly the same. And even, I mean, what is the differentiation, so to say, between the two? Is that the souls that are coming from the world of Atzilut were conceived on Friday night, and there were souls that are coming from the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah were conceived during the week. ומתוך דבריך נראה שדווקא נשמת אצילות אין בה שיעבוד מלאכה. And according to what you're saying, this is what the soul is saying, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it seems from what you're saying, then the souls, only the souls that come from the world of Atzilut, they don't have the harsh time in the reincarnation. But it doesn't make sense. Amar le, now, Amar le, Rabbi Shimon answers to the soul, and he says, Saba, Saba. V'at sha'ilda, he's asking like in a shocking, he's replying to him in a, not a shocking, in a tmiha. Tmiha is like a wonder. V'chi ish gadol kamocha yishal she'ela kazot. Rabbi Shimon is answering now the soul like a Jew. He's answering with a question. He's telling him, such a great person like you is asking such a question? They sent you all the way down, all the way from Gan Eden, to ask me this question? You seem like you're a pretty big soul. Why are you asking me this question? I'm talking here that the whole verse, that it's talking about Lo Taseh Kol Melacha, it's talking about only about a soul that comes from the world of Atzilut, and specifically coming from the Yesod, the foundation of the Atzilut, and that soul is called a Tzaddik. So of course, there's a difference here. Even a Tzaddik needs to be reincarnated. And again, we're not talking about now tzaddik like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Arizal, and the Baal Shem Tov. We're talking about a soul that when it reached to Gan Eden, it was found right. This is where the word tzaddik comes from, because it was found tzodek, right. But it still needs to get reincarnated. It still has some blemishes. Da'af al gav, de'itchayav le'achata begilgula bechol ilen. Even though that this soul got Nitchayva, got the I can't say here the punishment, rather it was found guilty, and it had to come down in a reincarnation. Litabesh b'chol elu bnei adam, the soul has to get dressed again into a body. Hainu, meaning afilu be'eved, that soul will have to get dressed with somebody that has a ruach from the world of Yetzirah. Ve'ama, and the maidservant, v'nishama de bria, coming a soul coming from the world of bria, uve'iran, and here we're talking also about pure animals like a cow or a goat and so forth. De'inu nofanin. This means that the nefesh are coming from the world of Asiyah, and if you remember yesterday we learned that the nefesh, the ruach or neshama that comes from the world of Yetzirah is controlled or ruled by the angel that is called Metatron. Here he's saying these souls that are coming from the world of Asiyah, me'ofanim shem sod malachi Asiyah. They're coming, so to say, they're controlled by the angels that are called Ofanim, and these are the angels that are controlling the world of Asiyah, or that are also being, not controlling, they're being produced, so to say, in the world of Asiyah. Or bechol chevan, or that they're coming from the four animals that are called chayot hakodesh. There are many different levels of malachim. The lowest level of all the angels are called ofanim. Then, if you remember, we say that when we pray the brachot of Shema Yisrael in Shacharit, the ofanim, chayot hakodesh, and so forth, the srafim, and so forth. So Ofanim are the lowest group. They're coming from the world of Asiyah. Comes another group, it's called Chayot HaKodesh. I mean, the translation is holy animals, but it's not holy animals. It's just called Chayot HaKodesh. Kodesh is holy, and Chayot is an animal. But they're coming from the world of Yetzirah. And not only that, also you can find these angels in the world of Bria. The minhun nishmatin livnei nasha, that from these souls come souls for the human beings. Le'elu shenoldu mizivug shel yemot hachol. Specifically souls that come down after a zivug, a marital relations during the week. Ktiv ba, as it says about the soul, beneshama da'atzilut kazot sheyarda v'nitlabsha be'elu bnei adam. When it says not to make any labor on Shabbat, it's referring to specifically a soul that comes from the world of Atzilut and gets dressed into a human. Lo ta'aseh kol melacha. It says don't do any labor. Meaning, shelo tishta'abed b'melacha, that this type of soul that's coming from the world of Atzilut that will not be subject to any type of harsh rectification. And the script is not trying to compare or to make the souls the same level. אלא הפסוק מדבר לאדם שיש לו נפש, רוח, נשמה דאצילות, שנתגלגל ונתלבש בבני אדם שנשמתם מביאה. What is this verse referring to? A person that has a nefesh, ruach, neshama from the world of Atzilut, got reincarnated and got dressed in a human, that their soul is from Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. I'm going to just take a short detour here to explain. This is explained much more in depth by the Arizal in the Gates of Reincarnation. Later on he might explain it too. But we have a few souls in our body. We can have, according to the Arizal, we can have 4 souls in the same body from different places. And sometimes, if you're lucky, the 4 souls will be from the same lineage, which means that it's kind of you. Lineage means that the same way that I have a mother and a father, and they have a mother and a father, and they have a mother and a father, this is my lineage. It's the same idea in souls. So my parents are not necessarily my spiritual soul's parents. Rather, it can be just the body that I came from. But Dari explains that I have a lineage in my neshama. Where did my neshama come from? It came from a zivug of 2 other neshamot. And Dari explains that I can have in me up to 4 souls, and it will go 10 generations, so to say, up in my souls. But there's a totally common that each and every one of us has a few souls in our body. Sometimes, excuse me?
Doing different tikkun.
Sometimes assisting each other to do the tikkun. It depends. Excuse me? Yeah, there's always the main soul, and then the other ones that either come to assist or they come to be rectified. The Arizal goes, if you want to get more information, go to chapter 6 in the Gate of Reincarnation. He's talking about it more thoroughly, specifically about that.
So a soul could enter me while I'm alive.
That's already called, yeah, but that's called the ibur. Here we're talking about a gilgul. Then they all come together. When you're born. You are talking about ibur, and constantly we have neshamot coming into us in a ibur. So the ibur is an impregnation. And you can have a ibur of a tzaddik. Most of us, when we do tshuva, any point of your life, without you even feeling any difference. The only time that you really feel a difference is that we can all relate with it, is when you do tshuva, and suddenly you don't know where you're getting these turbo powers, and you do tshuva. Where do you think we have power to do tshuva? Sometimes a tzaddik gets dressed in you, and it can be a nefesh of a tzaddik, a ruach of a tzaddik, or a neshama of a tzaddik. Usually the tzaddik that will get dressed in your body will resemble your behavior. So if you do a certain behavior, then a certain tzaddik can get dressed in you. That's why we see that with specific groups, they're very attached to a certain tzaddik, and they mimic the tzaddik. Why? To make opportunity that the nefesh of the tzaddik can get dressed into the student and assist him. And that's a pretty common thing. And the time you will feel it is when you have to do tshuva, or when you're struggling with an unbelievable test, and you pass it with flying colors. And sometimes you feel that you're flying, and sometimes you feel that you're low. Now, usually you will attribute it to something that happened in your life. So, I'll give you an example on myself. Then I became observant, then I was in yeshiva for, you don't see it too much. You see walls and you learn Torah. But every year in that yeshiva, they would go up, it was in New York, we would go up to the mountains, to the Catskills. It's a very common thing, and everybody in New York, they know that. Everybody goes up to the mountains. So we would go once a year for 2 months into the mountains. I would learn there from like 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And you're surrounded by nature. There's no reception to phones there even. There's no phones. There's no internet. There's no nothing. You sit and learn Torah all day long. So usually after a summer like that, I was in such a high that, my service of Hashem was like a machine. And then we would go back to Brooklyn where I lived. You feel like you lose altitude. Now, and then of course in that time, I would really grow spiritually and reach to much higher levels. Now, I could attribute that physically to the fact that I was away for the summer, but could very much be that at the time was a auspicious time for a nefesh of a tzaddik to get dressed in me, and suddenly I'm jumping in levels that I can't even imagine. Wow, how did I jump from this level to that level? So many times it's very common that a nefesh of a tzaddik will get impregnant in me. This is called dibur. The second that I sin, the tzaddik goes out. That's how sometimes you see in your path of...
How do you get him back?
How do you get him back? Start begging. Do tshuva. Or not to do sins. But nevertheless, we sometimes see that we have a process in our tshuva that everything is going easy. And then sometimes I have like a period that I can't even get myself into the shul. And now there's a good chance that my assistant, my extra engine left. How do you get it back? Do tshuva, you pray, you cry, you can't ask for ibur. You can't go to a grave of a tzaddik and beg the tzaddik to get impregnant in you. There's not anything you ask for. If you're lucky, it happens. But you can get a visit of other souls, which is called a ibur, at any given moment. Sometimes you'll notice it, sometimes you don't notice it. Sometimes how do you notice it? Sometimes you have some emotional problems, or how? That I don't know how to tell you how they jump. How they jump into you. They probably,
see you along the street or something.
That's...
bad souls come if a person takes a lot of drugs. You get ghosts, bad things.
That's when you're already making yourself very vulnerable, you can already get demons coming into you, and that's...
drugs do it.
Yeah, so not only that, also when you do severe sins. When you do sins that are beyond normal, then you are becoming a chariot to evil. And demons can come into you and party on your body and do whatever they want. And then people literally lose their mind. Some people, they go completely cuckoo.
How do you purge to get them out?
How? Oh, well, then not always you can. It's not so easy.
This way, you find a holy man.
Yeah.
Be next to a holy man.
Yeah.
From them.
I mean, Rabbi Chaim Vital was known to be the Ghostbusters. I have a few books of him that... Rabbi Chaim Vital, the student of the Arizal, he was literally known to be the Ghostbusters. And people will come to him with dibukim and all sorts of crazy things, and he would get them. I have a few books that are, you read these books, you don't sleep for 3 weeks. And one book says, somehow I got the books, I would read the stories, and I mean, I don't get scared from that, but I would sometimes read a story to my wife. She was like, please, no, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear it. And you hear like these crazy, scary stories. But Rabbi Chaim Vital was known as another very, very big tzaddik, Rabbi Yehuda Petaya, that he has a book, Ruchot Mesaprot. Anyways, this is real stuff. So how do you get rid of it? I mean, our generation, we don't have somebody so powerful that the demons are afraid of. A tzaddik like Rabbi Chaim Vital would get close to a dibuk, he would control them in a second with a few holy words. But nevertheless,
You don't think we have anybody in our generation?
in our generation, who? Rav Abuchatzera. Listen, we do have some great tzaddikim in our generation, but I don't know if there's really somebody that is known that you can go to, and I'm sure there are. Just go find the person. Now, the ones who tell you that they can, they're all phonies. I told already not too long ago, I met somebody and they came to me and He told me, listen, we went to some guy, our kid was very sick, we went to some guy in Israel and he sold us a few kmeot, how do you call it, amulets? And from the moment we got them, everything is chaos, our life is chaos. So what should we do? So the first question I asked them is, how much did it cost? So they said, $1,500 each one. I said, okay, that's your problem. Okay, $1,500. First of all, from what at least we know, the last one that really knew how to write these amulets the right way is Rabbi Kaduri. And even he didn't want to write them. So, but nevertheless, when you go to somebody, he tells you $1,500 per one, you can already smell something's fishy here. So, but nevertheless, unfortunately, yeah, you see people that they fall to that, and it's scary to see the person. Sometimes you see people, they have a demonic behavior, and how to get it out. I'm sure there are some people in our generation, but I don't know. You don't just open the yellow pages.
Many lives and deaths, you might come to such a person.
Yeah.
Holy man.
Yeah. Therefore, one has to be very careful. And you're right, exactly. Some people, I see that they abuse drugs, but in a very harsh way. Their body becomes a chariot to ruchot, to these evil spirits, and they go and park in the body, and then the person becomes completely demonic. Shem Yerachem.
It's not as prevalent as it was back when Chaim Vital lived, but I think it is.
Well, the thing is that once it was very, very powerful, and about 250 years ago, 270 years ago, the Baal Shem Tov canceled 90% of all this junk in the world. Right. Baal Shem Tov came to the world and he literally overpowered most of the power of evil in this world. There's a story when he once was walking around, he was a young kid. When he was a little kid, he would go into forests and disappear for days. And once he came to the chamber, to the palace of the Samech Mem, he walked in there and all the demons, everybody's there. And the Samech Mem told him, little kid, get out of here. And he screamed back at him and he told him, Itpardu kol po'alei aven. There's a verse in Tehillim, in chapter 93. 93? Yeah, 92. Chapter 92, Tzadik Bet. And he screamed at him, Itpardu kol po'alei aven. Itpardu is separated, kol po'alei aven, all the klipot. And the Baal Shem Tov was able to annul most of this darkness of the world. He's the first one who started spreading Chassidut. Chassidut is enlightening the world. But the Baal Shem Tov got rid of most of it. Before the Baal Shem Tov, the world was exactly like you see in all these movies with witchcraft and sorceries and witches and all these weird stuff. That's how the world was. The Hollywood didn't get it from some cuckoo. It got it from how it really was. That's how the world was. You see all these movies, Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and all that junk. That's how it was. Just that now Baal Shem Tov was able to subdue most of it. And yeah, but you see, it's still found in our world. And you don't want to see it, and you don't want to meet it. But nevertheless, let me just finish this paragraph, then we can do some questions. But nevertheless, where did I took off? See, that's the problem with all the side notes. I get lose where I am. Oh, okay, so he was saying, okay, let me go a little bit back. He was saying how sometimes if the nefesh ruach neshama comes from the world of Atzilut, but it can get dressed into a human, that their soul is from Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, meaning what the Ari says, sometimes two souls can share the same body. And this is the secret behind V'hai ihu la ta'avod bo avodat aved. This is the secret behind the verse that says you should not have labor of a slave. Shepasuk zenemar, this verse was said betzadik di'ihu yom HaShabbat. It's referring to a neshama from the world of Atzilut that was pulled into the world from the sphere of Yesod, that this is called a tzaddik, that this is a soul that was conceived on Shabbat. And it came down to this world from unity, from a marital relations that was done on Shabbat and Friday night. And on that soul it says, Lo ta'avod bo avodat eved. You should not have the labor of a slave. This is a verse from the book of Vayikra. chapter 25, where it says, "Lo ta'avod bo avodat eved." Don't take this person and make him work like a slave. This is referring to the soul. It came already from the world of Atzilut. It's kind of like a VIP. So it has already a pass saying, I'm sorry, look, I'm from the world of Atzilut. You can't make me work too hard here. So this is what the verse is referring to. Meaning, Hagam shenimkeret besod hagilgul le'eved, even though that soul will get, so to say, sold, like the slave, to a reincarnation, and that soul is going to have to park now in a body that the person has a ruach from the world of Yetzirah. Since the soul is coming from the world of Atzilut, even though it was placed in a body that is sharing their soul from coming from the world of Yetzirah, then the soul cannot be subject to slavery of a slave. De'ihu yom chol. Meaning a day, a weekday. That this is a soul that's coming from a weekday unity. That has to be corrected by hard work of the rectification. Basically saying, in other words, that it can be three scenarios here according to what he's saying. One scenario is that the soul is coming from the world of Atzilut. It will come back in a reincarnation and will have a pretty easy life. And it will be rectified with Torah and mitzvot. Another option is that the soul will come from the world of Bria, Yetzirah, and Osiyah, and it will have to work hard to reach to a rectification. A third option is that a soul from the world of Atzilut will come and dressed into a body that there is already a soul parked there from the world of Bria, Yetzirah, and Osiyah. Since the soul from the world of Atzilut cannot be subject to slavery, then even though it's in a body that the major soul here is coming from the world of Bria, Yetzirah, and Osiyah, it still cannot be subject for harsh rectification, because it has like a VIP pass, so to say, and then the rectification is not going to be so harsh. Rather, it will be more smoother and will be rectified by Torah and mitzvot versus hard. I mean, it keeps saying here, shi'abud melacha, slavery of hard work, meaning all these yesurim and the hardship and everything that we mentioned before, that what we all have to go through. So this is kind of, we'll stop over here. I know we have a lot of questions, but the point is that we have to kind of realize the different types of gilgulim. Tomorrow we're going to continue what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is saying to that soul. Maybe we'll find out who's the soul that got to pay a visit to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to ask some questions. Don't forget, before you ask your questions, that a lot of the souls are sitting in Gan Eden and they're missing details. And comes a neshama like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and starts doing chidushim. And souls coming from chidushim is bringing new information into the world. Because the soul of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai comes from a very high chamber in the world of Atzilut. It brings more information. Then it can come a soul like the Arizal that sits with the Chavruta, with Eliyahu Navi, and teaches him so many things. So when the Arizal teaches stuff, all the yeshivot of the world above, they come to listen. What is he saying? This tzaddik is bringing new information here. So maybe we'll find out who's the soul that was sent from Gan Eden to learn from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Just imagine the level that a soul is coming from Gan Eden and saying, hey, I heard you have some new information here for us.